Please sing. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you. We are gathered on this holy day that is one of the most notable transgressions of the separation of church and state. I say mostly in jest, simply because it was our President, George Washington, who first declared that there shall be a holy day and that we should all go to church and mark this holiday, this holy day, meaning a day that's set apart for something special and important. And the ink not quite dry on the Bill of Rights yet. And I will say, as a person who is a public school teacher and therefore an agent of state education, before I was then a priest and agent of church education, I've come at this from both sides, and seeing that while the First Amendment of the Constitution does not in fact declare there should be a separation of church and state, it does point out that there should be no imposed religion of the state. But it does mark, however, that there should be important moments where we are so aligned in what we believe as people of faith and what we are aligned in what we believe as our civic duty as citizens of our community, that those two values can be so aligned that it makes sense to mark a day that is a holy day both in the church and a holy day in our nation. And it's rooted in this idea. I think George Washington, looking at a nation of, at this point, still loosely connected states, former colonies that at best were a little bit like fighting cousins, and saying we need something to hold us together and remind us of who we are as one people. And part of it can be this idea that we know deep down that hate never solves hate, it just begets more hate. That violence never solves violence, it just begets more violence. But that by that same accord, love can beget more love. Hope can beget more hope. Generosity can beget more generosity. And gratitude, thanksgiving, begets more thanksgiving. This belief mattered a lot through the life of our nation, particularly at various times when we have been bitterly divided. And maybe we know a little bit about this in our world today of what it feels like to be at odds with one another in so many places in our world. Maybe at odds with members of our family we might be shortly gathering around the Thanksgiving table with in a little while, or maybe sadly not able to gather around the Thanksgiving table with them because of those divisions. It was in the 1860s, in the early days of the 1860s, when we were engaged in a deep civil war in our nation, a time where we were so divided with one another that we drew lines in the sand and said, we will shoot those who disagree with us, those who have marked themselves a different color. And the violence begets more violence, and the hate begets more hate. And it's in the midst of that another president, Abraham Lincoln also looking for something to heal the divide, something to bring us together and to remind us of who we are. Abraham Lincoln, looking for that, received a letter from a woman, from an editor of a journal named Sarah Josepha Hale. And Sarah Josepha Hale wrote to him, commending to him the idea that we should have a unified national day of Thanksgiving. You see, up to this point, there were different Thanksgivings on different days. Different states observed Thanksgiving on different days. Some states didn't observe it at all. But she said, this is important, that it's something that we do together. It should bind us together. This idea that giving thanks will beget more thanks, and that we should do it as one people, not as people people on blue uniforms and people in gray uniforms, but as one people. And so Abraham Lincoln declared that there should be, proclaimed that he loved this idea, he proclaimed that there should be a national day of Thanksgiving, that we will all stop what we're doing on a day, on one day, to stop what we're doing and to set aside all of those differences and to make it a day of being thankful. And I think about in my own life on these particular days, about moments where I'm profoundly thankful. There was a day I found myself one day traveling to a destination and having run out of gas. In a grocery store parking lot with no gas, and I realized I had lost my wallet. And with no wallet and no way to pay for gas to stay on my way, I was stranded in an alien land to me with nobody that I knew, nobody that knew me. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was sometime before cell phones existed and sometime after payphones went from being a dime to a quarter. So somewhere in that range. But it didn't matter because I didn't have a dime, I didn't have a quarter, I didn't have a cell phone, and I didn't have a friend. And that was a moment of being there at this grocery store, asking strangers if they had some money to help me out. And if you've ever passed by somebody who is in that situation, or maybe you've been in that situation, it's humbling. It's humbling to be completely beholden to the mercy of a complete stranger, to trust that I wasn't going to then go in and use that money in the grocery store to go buy some beer. And one gentleman finally stopped and gave me a $20 bill, which at the time was enough to completely fill a gas tank. If that tells you how far back it was then, it was enough to completely fill the gas tank and a little more. And I said, "Thank you." And he said, that's the point. I've been where you are, and somebody helped me in my time of need, and I was thankful for that, and now I'm helping you. I hope you'll do the same for somebody else sometime when they're in need. And I took that lesson to heart. I took 2 lessons to heart on that day. One is that I realized that thankfulness begets more thankfulness, because from that point forward, I have tried to be there for other people who were in need of the mercy of a stranger. And if I've helped another 10 people and given them gratitude in the same way that it was given to me, and if they've all gone on and helped 100 people, that has begotten healing in this world, as healing has begotten more healing. And the second lesson I took away from that, I look back now and I realized the gratitude completely erased any of those differences that might have kept us apart. This man who helped me, he might have been a Democrat, he might have been a Republican, he might have been Palestinian, he might have been an Israeli, he might have been Russian or Ukrainian, he might have been pro-life or pro-choice. I don't know. It didn't matter. In that moment, what mattered is that he saw me and knew that he could bring about a little healing and a little gratitude in this world, and so he went for it. And on this day, I'm mindful of how I can go out and try to bring about a little healing and a little gratitude in this world in that same way. That is the hope that our presidents, that Washington and Lincoln and others held on to. That hope that we could have a day, we could say this is a holy day, a sacred day set apart for something important. A day where we set apart those differences that divide us, that keep us from healing with one another, and we just focus on thanksgiving. Because as they remembered, and as we can hold on to, as we go out into this world today, we can remember that, yes, hate begets more hate out in this world. Violence, we watch as it begets more violence out in this world. But we also know that love begets more love, that healing will beget more healing, that gratitude generosity will beget more. Thanksgiving will beget more thanksgiving. My friends, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks be to God.